China and the U.S. holding tariff talks in Switzerland. Over 16 million visitors came to Hong Kong in the first 4 months of the year. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. China and the United States began high-level economic talks in Geneva, Switzerland, under the shadow of trade tariffs. Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng is meeting U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. China's Public Security Minister Wang Xiaohong is reportedly attending the meeting as well. U.S. President Donald Trump said he's confident that both sides will reach a fair deal. The Chinese delegation led by Vice Premier He Lifeng met with Swiss President Karin Keller-Sutter and Economic Affairs Minister Guy Parmelin on Friday, ahead of the weekend talks with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He is representing Beijing as its lead negotiator in the China-U.S. economic dialogue, the first formal meeting between senior officials after more than 3 months of a retaliatory tariff war that has dragged on their economies. The Wall Street Journal reports that China's Public Security Minister Wang Xiaohong will attend the meeting, indicating fentanyl-related issues will be on the agenda. Bessent has also arrived in Geneva and held bilateral talks with Parmelin. The Swiss official described the meeting as a success. Swiss President Karin Keller-Sutter also weighed in on the China-U.S. talks with a spiritual reference, alluding to the election of the first American pontiff, Pope Leo XIV.
I said to Secretary Bessent that apparently the Holy Spirit was in Rome yesterday, and I hope that he will come to Geneva over the weekend.
But I put out a number today.
At the White House, President Donald Trump says he respects China and President Xi Jinping and has authorized Bessent to offer a minimum acceptable tariff rate on Chinese goods.
We have to make a great deal for America.
Have you given Bessent a number of how low you're willing to go?
Yeah, I have.
Are you willing to share that number?
No. But I put out a number today, 80%, so we'll see how that all works.
Trump said he remains confident a fair deal will eventually be reached, but added he would not be disappointed if talks fail. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt later stressed that the U.S. will not unilaterally reduce tariffs on Chinese imports. Chinese state media published an article noting that Beijing agreed to resume dialogue in response to global expectations, national interests, and calls from U.S. businesses and consumers. It reiterated China's position: if there is a fight, they will respond, but the door for negotiations will always be open. The piece underscored that China will continue to defend global fairness and the international trade order. Hong Kong welcomed 16 million tourists in the first 4 months of the year, more than double the 2023 figure for the same period. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Rosanna Law said the coming few months will be packed with a series of mega events. Samantha Lee reports.
The Kai Tak main stadium recently featured the Taiwanese music group Mayday, drawing large crowds of fans from all over the world. The new 50,000-seat stadium has hosted at least 3 mega events since its opening in March, including the 3-day Rugby Sevens, which gave 110,000 revelers a thrilling time. In April, British band Coldplay performed at the stadium, attracting some 200,000 concert-goers. In the same month, Canton pop star Nicolas Day held a series of concerts, drawing more than 160,000 fans. Between January and April, the city has welcomed 60 million visitors, marking a 10% increase year-on-year. The last figure is more than double the number for 2023, when the city just began to recover from the pandemic. However, if compared to pre-pandemic levels, visitor arrivals is still lower than the same period in 2018. So will visitors come to the city again? This mainland tourist said she will return to Hong Kong for concerts in the future, but not for shopping, because it looks similar to other big cities. While this sightseer said she found Hong Kong very interesting, with plenty of places to explore. Rosanna Law, Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism, revealed there will be several international sports teams visiting the city in the coming few months. She believes this could help in attracting more visitors.
Through these sporting events, my Bureau will continue our efforts in fostering greater passion for sports. With the steadfast support and contribution of our industry partners, I'm confident that we will reach new heights on tourism in the years to come.
As traveling patterns evolve after the pandemic, travelers are increasingly looking for more in-depth adventures within communities, rather than flocking to popular touristic spots. Speaking on a radio program, Chief Secretary for Administration Chen Kuo-ki said the city should welcome all kinds of visitors, especially students who cannot afford high-cost options. He added the authorities will introduce more tourist attractions, hoping to encourage more travelers to revisit the city. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee has departed the city for the Middle East earlier today, leading a delegation with the goal of expanding ties with emerging markets. The city leader said regions with strong Muslim presence, such as the Middle East and ASEAN countries, offer strong potential, and the city will continue promoting halal tourism to woo more Muslim visitors.
The first hotel in Hong Kong to be.
Earlier this week, Chief Executive John Lee and Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Rosanna Lau visited a Tsim Sha Tsui hotel with Muslim-friendly facilities. It features prayer rooms, Qurans and Qibla indicators, directional guides in guest rooms to help Muslims locate Mecca for their daily prayers. The hotel also boasts a certified halal kitchen.
We have to get also certified, halal certified for all the items what you get it from the supplier. And when we cook it also in separate area with separate tools, equipments that will make sure that it's full halal.
May I join you?
Yeah, sure. Lee later joined a group of Muslim tourists for a halal meal.
I thought that Hong Kong is rare for the halal restaurant, but it's easy to find it. Yeah, even in the Discover Hong Kong, they listed like the hotel, Muslim-friendly hotel, Muslim halal restaurant. That's very helpful for me.
I have made it a very clear policy that we should make Hong Kong a Muslim-friendly city because we welcome you. We want everybody to come to Hong Kong to feel, first of all, appreciated, respected.
In his policy address last year, Lee pledged to promote halal tourism and expand visitor sources from the Middle East and ASEAN. The number of restaurants certified by the Incorporated Trustees of the Islamic Community Fund of Hong Kong has now increased to 170. The government said it will continue its campaign efforts to draw more Muslim travelers to experience the city. President Xi Jinping has concluded his visit to Russia. At about 8 a.m. local time, President Xi arrived at Moscow's airport for his departing flight. Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Chernyshenko was among the officials seeing Xi off at the airport. His flight to China should take about 7.5 hours, and Xi is expected to arrive at Beijing this evening. Xi was in Russia to attend a celebration marking the 80th anniversary of victory in World War II, featuring a massive military parade at Moscow's Red Square yesterday. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva began his state visit to China today at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Lula attended the Victory Day parade in Moscow and met Russian President Vladimir Putin after the event. Beijing's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Lula's visit to China will end on May 14th. Before the Brazilian leader's China trip, Beijing had removed the import ban slapped earlier on 5 Brazilian soy companies. China reportedly will purchase more soybean from the South American country. And still ahead, moviegoers only have to pay $30 to watch a film on Cinema Day today. European leaders are in Ukraine pushing for a ceasefire. Welcome back. Today is Cinema Day in Hong Kong. Residents can enjoy films at $30 at many theaters, with crowds queuing up to buy tickets at a cinema in Mong Kok. Some residents hope for similar events in the future. Samantha Lee reports.
At a cinema in Mong Kok on Saturday morning, a long queue formed as moviegoers rushed to snap up discounted tickets. For some movies, over half of the tickets had been sold. Residents need only pay $30 to watch a movie in any format, including the normally more expensive formats such as 4D versions. Some residents managed to secure tickets for Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I haven't been in a while. I chose this movie because I'm a big Marvel fan. Events like this, like setting the price is $30, per movie, it's a pretty nice thing to do.
Meanwhile, another cinema in Mongkok featured 40 theaters. Most of the movie screenings showed a full house. This man said he was unable to pick a good seat for his Decide 40 film, but he hoped to watch 3 films in a row using the special discounts. While this resident said he saw less people going for movies than last year, he believed it was the gloomy economy in the city that made people become more prudent in spending money. This year is the 3rd year for Cinema Day, which is partly sponsored by the government funds. There were 63 cinemas taking part in the event last year, but this year only 53 are joining. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The European Union office in Hong Kong and Macau held the Europe Day Festival in Central today. The event was held at PMQ, where more than 10 EU countries set up stalls to sell food from their respective nations. Rosanna Law, Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism, and Harvey Rouse, head of the EU office to Hong Kong and Macau, tasted the food and chatted with the stall owners. Rouse said he hoped the event can deepen the trade and people relations between Europe and Hong Kong. Xia Baolong, director of the Hong Kong Macau Affairs Office of the State Council, continued the 3rd day of his visit to Macau. Xia's outreach efforts on day 3 began by sharing breakfast with local residents at a public housing complex for the elderly in the Arena Plata neighborhood. Also at the site were Macau Chief Executive Sam Hao-fai and Beijing's Liaison Office Director in Macau, Zheng Xinchong. Xia's itinerary also included a visit to Ama Temple, one of Macau's oldest heritage sites. The leaders of 4 European countries, Poland, France, Germany, and the UK, are in Kyiv pushing for a ceasefire in the Ukraine-Russia war. They're hoping their show of unity will ratchet up the pressure on Russia to agree to a lengthy pause. David Garrett reports.
2 special guests in a railway carriage heading from Poland into Ukraine. 2 major European leaders becomes 3 as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer joins French President Emmanuel Macron and new German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. A casual, cordial atmosphere as they travelled across the countryside and into war-torn Ukraine. The Ukrainian Welcoming Committee on hand to receive the leaders, the trio from the train looking rested and ready to hold meetings in an attempt to try to stop the war that has been raging for the past 3 years. The leaders of France, Germany and the UK are pressing for a month-long ceasefire. They blame Russia for prolonging the war. So does Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, joining the trio to make a quartet of foreign leaders in Kiev. The group walked with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and the First Lady, placing candles at the memorial for fallen Ukrainian soldiers, a focal point in the Ukrainian capital since the outbreak of the conflict. A joint statement by all 4 visiting leaders says they want to ratchet up pressure on Russia and Vladimir Putin, calling for Moscow to stop obstructing efforts to secure enduring peace. The Kremlin has told American media that Russia would require a halt to US and European arms supplies to Ukraine before considering any ceasefire. Ukraine has theoretically agreed to a US proposed 30-day truce. More moments for conversations among the European allies at the top of the steps. Macron, who signed a mutual security pact with Poland and Tusk only yesterday, saying, "What is happening with Poland, Germany and the UK now is historical. For us, we must take independence of our security. Of course for Ukraine too, but for all of us. It's a new era in Europe." David Garrett, TVB News.
In the U.S. state of New Jersey, air traffic controllers directing planes into Newark Airport, which is near New York, briefly lost their radar for the 2nd time in 2 weeks. The incident revives concerns about America's air traffic control system that President Donald Trump wants to overhaul. The Federal Aviation Administration said the radar at the facility in Philadelphia that directs planes in and out of Newark Airport went black for 90 seconds early on Friday. A similar incident happened on April 28th, leading to hundreds of flights being cancelled or delayed for 2 weeks after the FAA slowed down traffic to ensure safety. 5 controllers went on trauma leave after that outage. By the end of Friday, 68 departures and arrivals have been cancelled in Newark. And that's the news. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.